Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2 a.m. tapes. Here we share chilling stories and mysteries that come alive when the world sleeps. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen closely. Because at 2 a.m., the tapes start to speak. The internet can be a scary place. There are stories about something called the echo chamber. People say it's a hidden service on the dark web that shows you a reflection of your true self, your deepest fears, or even glimpses of your future. I thought it was just a made-up story, something to scare people. But then I found the invite. It was nestled in a forgotten corner of an old encrypted chat room, a single flickering glyph amidst lines of code. I clicked it, even though I was scared. The screen went black, then a single pulsating indigo circle appeared. Just a circle, nothing else. Then words appeared, slowly coalescing from the blackness. Seek yourself. Enter the echo. My heart started beating super fast. It was real. I quickly closed the window, my hands shaking. I tried to forget about it, but the image of that pulsing indigo circle was stuck in my head. That night, the indigo circle was in my dreams. It was in a vast, cold, reflective space. I tried to step away to escape, but my reflections moved independently, mocking me. The air started to smell like static and something sharp, like ozone after a lightning strike. Then I heard a whisper from everywhere. A chorus of my own voice twisted and distorted. You are revealed. I woke up with a gasp, tasting ozone and smelling that strange odor. The echo of my own voice, vibrating in my bones. Days went by, a blur of bad sleep and fear. I tried to erase everything from my computer, even thought about throwing it away, but the whispers kept coming. Revealed. My phone would ring with strange, hollow echoes of my own voice that vanished when I tried to answer. My own reflection in mirrors would sometimes flicker, showing a fleeting glimpse of something else. Something with eyes too empty and a smile too wide, staring back from behind my own. One evening, I was trying to relax, sketching in my notebook when the air in my apartment grew suddenly cold. The lights flickered, not just once, but in a slow, deliberate rhythm. The whispers started, louder than ever, coming from every direction, surrounding me. Then, the shadows in the corners of my room began to deepen, to move. They weren't just shadows anymore. They were darker, denser, reaching out like grasping tendrils. I could feel a cold, unseen touch on my skin, a brush of something impossibly light, yet heavy with malice. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't look away. It felt like something was pulling at me, not physically, but from within. A terrible unseen force I couldn't resist. Just as the deepest shadow reached for my face, a sudden violent crackle of electricity ripped through my apartment. It slammed doors shut, rattled picture frames, and extinguished every light source, plunging the room into absolute blackness. I stumbled backward, heart pounding, gasping for air. The silence that followed was terrifying, broken only by my own ragged breathing. Every object in the room felt different, imbued with a chilling presence. Then from the darkest corner I heard it, a faint, wet, slithering sound, like something dragging itself across the wooden floor. It was coming from inside the room, and I knew, with a chilling certainty, that the echo chamber wasn't just a website, it was here, and I was no longer alone. The silence after the sudden blackout was heavy, broken only by my ragged breathing and that chilling, slithering sound from the corner. I just stood there in the dark, frozen, listening. The slithering continued, a slow, deliberate movement, like something massive and wet dragging itself across the floor. It was no longer just a sound, it was a presence, and something was in the room with me, wanting me. A cold, putrid breath, smelling of stale fear and something indescribably ancient, wafted towards me, raising goosebumps on my arms. I scrambled back, stumbling over my own feet. My phone, still dead, lay accusingly on the nightstand. I grabbed it, pressing the power button over and over, as if willing it to life. Nothing. The entire apartment was plunged into a deeper, more profound darkness than just the absence of electricity. It felt like the air itself had been drained of light and warmth, replaced by the suffocating presence of whatever had emerged from the echo chamber. The slithering intensified. It wasn't just a quiet drag anymore. It was louder, more insistent, accompanied by a faint, wet squish like something gelatinous being pulled along the floor. Each squish sent a vibration through the floorboards, a sickening echo in my chest. A wave of nausea washed over me. I could almost feel its presence, cold and ancient, pressing in on me from the darkness. My mind screamed at me to run, to leave the apartment, to get as far away from that thing as possible. But my feet felt glued to the floor. I couldn't move. Then, a low, guttural chittering emanated from the darkness. It wasn't human. It was deep, wet, and filled with an alien hunger that made my blood run cold. A faint, sickly violet glow, like corrupted starlight, seeped from the darkest corner, barely illuminating the monstrous outline of something vast and multi-limbed, constantly shifting and reforming. The air around it seemed to shimmer with a dark, malevolent energy. My eyes, now adjusted to the gloom, fixated on the glowing outline. The violet glow pulsed with the slither, squish, chitter rhythm. I could see the faint outline of something immense, something with too many undulating surfaces, too many indistinct forms, pressing itself forward. It wasn't just a shape, it had depth, a grotesque form slowly expanding in the oppressive darkness. The very air around it grew heavy, tasting of ozone and decay. I could hear a faint, almost imperceptible whispering sound, like 1,000 tiny voices murmuring in unison, echoing my thoughts, coming from within the dark void of its body. It was getting closer. It was unfolding. Night, panic, cold and sharp, finally pierced through my paralysis. I lunged for the door, fumbling for the knob in the oppressive darkness. My hand closed around it, cold and slick with sweat. I twisted, but it wouldn't budge. A high-pitched, almost imperceptible wail, like tortured souls, came from the door, as if something was holding it shut from the outside. I shoved against it with all my might, but it was like pushing against solid rock. I was trapped. Behind me, the slithering became frantic, a desperate, accelerating drag. The phosphorescent glow from the creature intensified, casting grotesque, shifting shadows that danced across the walls, making my small apartment feel impossibly vast and menacing. The air grew frigid, raising goosebumps all over my exposed skin. I could feel my own breath clouding in front of me, a visible testament to the unnatural cold that had invaded my home in Kamalgaon Palika. A new sound began to join the symphony of terror, a soft, rhythmic drip, drip, drip. It was coming from the creature. I didn't want to know what liquid was making that sound. My gaze was unwillingly drawn back to the glowing outline. The details pressing from within were clearer now. I could make out glistening, unblinking eyes, too many of them, scattered across its form, and a sickeningly familiar opening that could only be a maw, slowly widening. The whispering sound grew louder, more rapid, a chilling chorus of unseen entities. I pressed myself against the locked door, tears streaming down my face, my throat raw from silent screams. It wasn't just in the room anymore. It was practically on me. Then, the glowing mass didn't just pulse. It began to undulate violently, like a massive living organism in a death throe. The darkness within it seemed to stretch and distort, and the violet glow pulsed faster, illuminating fleeting, gruesome details. Something that looked like exposed nerves, something else that resembled a network of pulsing black veins. The drips quickened, splattering softly onto my wooden floor with a sound that was too wet, too thick to be water. The smell of rot became overwhelming, making me gag. I could feel a pressure building in the room, a tangible weight pressing down on me, as if the very air was condensing around the burgeoning horror. The whispering evolved into a frenzied scream, a cacophony of distorted voices, all variations of my own. I could almost hear the wet tear of something being ripped, something unseen, just beyond my perception. My vision blurred from fear, but I could still see the glowing mass, now a pulsing violet maw, no longer just a form but an antechamber. An antechamber directly into whatever unspeakable terror had followed me from the echo chamber. My heart was a drum in my chest, threatening to burst. I closed my eyes, but the terrifying glow, the sounds, the smells, were all seared into my mind. I waited for the inevitable. A sharp crack, like a skull shattering, erupted from the glowing mass. It was followed by a wet, sucking noise, and the form itself seemed to collapse inwards, then surge outwards, twisting and groaning as if in agony. The violet glow intensified to an unbearable brilliance, briefly illuminating the room in a sickly, cold wash before plunging it back into near-total darkness, leaving only the pulsing azure from the creature. I heard a sickening gurgle and then a heavy splat on my floor. Closer than before, something had fully emerged. I didn't dare open my eyes, but I could feel it. The temperature plummeted further, the air growing heavy with a new metallic tang that was sharper, fresher than before. The putrid breath was now right on me, hot and foul, stirring the hairs on my neck. I could hear a slow, deliberate drag as something vast and heavy pulled itself across the floor, coming closer. The sound of wet, multifaceted breathing filled the small apartment, ragged and uneven, a chorus of unseen mouths. My entire body trembled, my muscles screaming with the effort of remaining absolutely still. I knew it was standing over me, its presence an unbearable weight. The soft drip, drip, drip continued, closer now, a chilling countdown to whatever came next. Then, a different sound, not from the creature, but from the air itself. A faint, almost imperceptible chime. It was my laptop. Dead moments ago, it was now softly humming on my desk. My eyes shot open, drawn to the tiny, faint light emanating from its screen as I stared at it. It wasn't the usual lock screen. It was displaying a single chilling image, my own face, twisted in a silent scream, staring out from the glowing indigo circle. And beneath it, a single, unblinking eye, reflecting my terror. I realized with a soul-crushing certainty that the echo chamber wasn't just a website. It was here, and I was now its perfect reflection.